As We See It, a series about desegregation in America's high schools, produced by high school students.
Good evening, I'm Steve Ruge, and this is Betsy Henderson, and we're here for a special edition of As We See It News. Tonight, we will report on how desegregation has affected our high school, Kelvyn Park, on Chicago's northwest side.
Coming up in this half hour will be special reports on the Latino influence at Kelvyn Park and a new low in school spirit. Steve Ruge's focus report on gangs, the As We See It student perspective by Vince Garrido, and our roving reporter asks the question, what is Kelvyn Park's reputation?
Tonight's lead story is on the new majority at Kelvyn Park. Gil Diaz has the details on the scene.
I'm here in Kelvyn Park High School, located at 4343 West Wrightwood in Chicago. Kelvyn Park is situated in a predominantly white neighborhood, but the area which the school district covers extends into the Latino neighborhoods, which brings in a 59% Latino majority. I'm hearing something over my telex. They want to take it back to the studio for a special weather bulletin.
New developments are occurring in the racial makeup of our country's population, and we have a special update report by Carmen Garcia. Carmen?
In the last 20 years, Latinos from Cuba, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Central and South America have migrated into the United States. It's hard to tell just how many arrived before 1970 because they were counted as whites by the U.S. Census Bureau. We do know, however, that by 1970, almost 10 million Latinos were living in the larger cities like New York, Chicago, and in the Southwest. By 1978, the national Latino population increased to 12.5 million. 19 million if we include the 7.5 million illegal aliens. That makes them the fastest growing minority in the nation. The Spanish-speaking people came bringing the sons from their homeland. They came looking for better opportunities. But often their hopes were clouded over when their limited English and education meant limited job openings. Let's look at how their problems sometimes created a turbulence. Many Latinos did not come to Chicago first, but moved here during the 1930s for industrial jobs. Today, Chicago is the only city in the nation with both a substantial Mexican-American and Puerto Rican population. In 1970, Latinos made up 7% of the city's population. By the year 2000, it is estimated they make up 19%. But what is causing the turbulence that follows Chicago's Latinos? It appears that wherever Latinos settle, and especially in the inner city, the non-Hispanic families move out, heading in a northerly or westerly direction. Let's look at how these stormy conditions have affected the second-generation Latino students who attend American schools. To start, we'll take a look at a typical high school on Chicago's northwest side. Kelvyn Park is situated on a northern boundary line of a large Latino community. In 1970, Kelvyn Park was 15% Latino. In 1978, that increased to 59%. The latest barometer readings of the students' progress shows that while in 1970, 43% of the Kelvyn Park students were college-bound, that figure dropped to 21% by 1978. The rainfall or dropout rate for the Latino population in Chicago has improved only slightly during the same period. Only 36% of Latinos 18 to 24 years old have completed high school. The weather outlook for the year 2000 is continued growth, and we hope an upward swing towards better education and job opportunities, with the possibility of clear skies. But now back to our current environmental conditions and Gil Diaz.
Thank you, Carmen. As I was saying about the 59%, they have brought about certain problems and some unique advantages. In these few minutes, we will look into the Latino majority here at Kelvyn Park and the educational changes which have occurred as a result of the new and growing majority.
There's controversy over whether Kelvyn Park has considered the needs of the increasing Latino population. First, we talked to a former student.
First of all, I think that Kelvyn Park has to justify why there are only 3 Latino teachers when there is 59% Latino students. Also, Kelvyn Park has to justify why there are no Latino counselors who can counsel Latino students.
It is my wish that in view of the fact that we have great needs at Kelvyn Park in that direction, it is my wish that they would assign me a separate slot, a fifth counselor who would be bilingual. But with the economic crunch the way it is, I get no extra staff.
Then Kelvyn Park has to justify why there isn't enough Latin American studies classes to give cultural identity to the Latino students. They have to have Latinos who can teach bilingual education so that they can relate what they know, what they've learned to the Latino students.
We have worked in service for teachers to make sure that they are able to adapt to the changing needs of the students. I would say that that could be a possible problem, but that we hope we have short-stopped it and moved in before it becomes a problem. People have to change, and when the student population changes, I think it's naive to think that the teachers don't have to do some changing too. And remember, Betsy, that human nature resists change.
Teachers sometimes feel apathetic, sometimes unconcerned about their ability to communicate. I think that some type of commonality, you know, that we're here, that is majority Hispanic people, that we should have some type of appreciation for having another language, rather than seeing it as a negative, as a positive thing. That's what I feel.
There is only one teacher who conducts several bilingual classes at Kelvyn Park, and recently there has been some concern over whether this program is large enough and if it effectively helps Latino students make the transition into regular classes.
According to the law, I'm supposed to teach my classes in their home language, and there are a lot of students that they can hardly speak, you know, to you in English. So when they get into, let's say, USA history class, it's pretty hard for them to understand the language. So sometimes they get low grades and all that kind of things, you know, when they get into regular classes.
The Latino family structure is quite different from the average American family structure. They have not yet been assimilated into our society in the respect that they treat their children differently. For example, the Latinos are very strict with the daughters at home. They're very tight on them, and they have extreme control on the children. On the other hand, the male has a macho image. The woman is a second-class citizen in the Latino family. So when they come to school, the girls have a tendency to let out their aggressions in school. This is the only spot they find freedom. The boys have the macho image to live up to in school. You wind up with the school being a focal point of their social life. The girls and boys both want to socialize in the halls more than they want to go into class. They want to visit and see each other. So we have a chronic tardy problem, a tardy problem to school to begin with, a tardy problem to class, and we have a corridor problem, students constantly roaming the corridors.
How have the Latinos influenced Kelvyn Park?
Well, there's been positive and negative influences. Let's start with the positive. I run the band, and the Latinos seem to be very interested in the band, and they've joined in large numbers. And so I have better than 50% of the band is Latino, way more than the population of Latino students. But negatively, there's also more gangs than there was when it was all white.
Everything they say about gangs, about everybody getting beat up in the halls and everything, those are, you know, like rumors, but, you know, it's just everybody knows each other, you know, and everybody gets along, you know, there's not really nothing wrong with Kelvyn Park.
As far as the absenteeism goes, kids seem to be coming to this school and classes whenever they feel like it. When you contact parents about the absenteeism, what you're talking is to parents who don't seem any more interested in getting their kids into schools. They show complete apathy about their sons and daughters coming to class.
I think that that's incorrect. I think my mother motivated me. My mother wanted me to get an education. My mother wanted my sisters to get educations. The mothers of the friends that I was with wanted their children to get educated so that they wouldn't have to go through the same things that our parents went, so that they wouldn't have to work in factories, so that they wouldn't be subjected to working for $2.65 an hour. It would be totally wrong to say that a parent is not concerned with the education of his children.
Do you feel the apathy of the parents is due to the changing population of the neighborhood?
Yes, I do. A lot of the parents, even though their children were born in Chicago, a lot of the parents went to the schools in Puerto Rico, Mexico, or South America, and school does represent authority, and I think a lot of these parents feel uncomfortable in school. They haven't been to the school, but just coming to the school makes them feel uncomfortable because they're dealing with an authority figure.
So in closing, we have found that the Latino students here at Calvin Park have brought some unique cultural differences which the administration and faculty were not equipped or prepared to handle. Also, that the administration here at Calvin Park has been slow in responding to the needs of the new and growing majority.
Thank you, Gil. Betsy, I understand for your report on school spirit, you attended a Calvin Park math or basketball game.
Yes, I did, Steve. You know, Calvin Park has fallen on some bad times of late. After interviewing a number of people, we found the general opinion to be that school spirit has been continually declining and has now reached an all-time low. We took our cameras on location to a varsity basketball game at Mather High School to see for ourselves.
First, the starting lineup for the Calvin Park Panthers.
The Calvin Park stands are nearly empty at today's basketball game against Mather High School. The coach and players tell us this is not at all unusual for basketball or football games in recent years. I asked Coach Joe TADELMAN why he felt school spirit seems to have declined.
Well, there are many problems, and it's multiple. One, sometimes the kids themselves don't have an interest. Sometimes some leadership of the individual groups. And I would say the general decline in the attitude of wanting to be part of the school.
Carey, it's been said that the varsity cheerleaders haven't shown up to too many games this year. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
They hardly show up at all to any games, maybe 1 out of 6 or 7.
Okay, when they do come, how long do they usually stay?
For the most part, they sit on the bench, half-dressed, and leave at halftime.
How does having an encouraging crowd and enthusiastic cheerleaders affect you when you're on the floor?
Having cheerleaders that are good and a crowd that is enthusiastic would make everybody play harder and work for more. They'd make everybody feel better.
Okay, what about when they're not there?
When they're not there, you go out and you're playing on your own, and it's as if you have no support from anybody out there. So you're just doing it for yourself.
Okay, Carey, as a white student at Calvin Park, do you find that the Latino majority has caused you any special problems?
No, there's been no problems.
And do you feel, being a white student on the varsity basketball team, having a white coach, do you feel that he favors you at all?
No, no. I've sat down quite a few times on the bench.
In the past few years, the Latino population at Calvin Park has risen to 59%. In your estimation, what effect has this majority, the new majority, had on the sports program and the extracurricular activities, in general, the school spirit at Calvin Park?
Well, I wouldn't particularly say that the increase caused any activities of ours to go down. However, like many ethnic groups, for example, our soccer team this year, mostly Latin kids, terrific. Baseball team, terrific. You look at the major leagues and all you see is about 85 names with Latin names. However, basketball and football has suffered.
In other areas, there is an abundance of school spirit and pride, primarily because of strong Latino participation. How does the ROTC show school spirit and school pride?
I would say that the ROTC, it has several things that a cadet can get into, such as the drum and bugle, the drill platoon, the color guard, and once they get involved in this, these things, they compete with other schools, and it gives them a chance to, you know, to better themselves. It gives them a chance to develop leadership skills.
Louis, there are many stereotypes that picture